The Confessions of St. Augustine, a novel by James F. Mueller. A 21st century post-postmodernist deconstructionist novel, not for the post-postmodernist. So with that crash course in higher literary criticism, dear reader, let us now continue. Because how much of our great literature from the Old World makes reference to their own indigenous mythology, going back eventually to classic Greco-Roman mythology? And yet, since our New World mythology, albeit on extension of the Old World, is an extension and not a mere repetition, the cowboy, the Indian, the Golden West, the Rousseauian view of the noble savage, the New Eden, the Promised Land, etc., etc., what's it all mean? Because, yes, we're all aware of the impact, but of the significance. So, yes, there are a lot of paintings of Indians in the way they were, as seen throughout the trilogy, but lest we complicate this even more, it's the voice of the narrator that sets the tone for the pictures, not the other way around. They're merely counterpoint. So if you're expecting a Norman Rockwell Hallmark Lifetime movie channel view of life, this is not the book for you. The very reason that will turn certain people off is the very reason that will turn others on, says L.E. Every bit as good as Saul Bellows, says P.B. One of the funniest books I ever read, says T.B. Belongs up there with the classics, says A.M. Laughed so hard I almost ripped out my stitches, says lady recuperating from a hysterectomy who would prefer to be anonymous. Kind of book you'd want to discuss in a lit class, says B.W. The dialogue's brilliant. Ought to be a collegiate cult classic, says JB. Couldn't stop laughing, says BP. Couldn't sleep, says RF. There's nothing like it. This has never been done, says WW. Woke my husband up laughing, says J. Woke my wife up laughing, says EJ. So, back to walking the streets by myself again, looking and praying. Yes, looking for my next masterpiece that'll change the world, disturb the universe, or at least bail me out of here, I'm praying. Day after day till my varicose veins are ready to pop, and doesn't Miami even have a hill? Anywhere? Other than an overpass on 95? There is no view, Lord, beyond the next line of palm trees, and how many variations of palm trees do I have to paint to say what I already said? Or didn't? And probably never will. I mean, all right, maybe a few palms here and there, but most of the time I change it. Yeah, like palm trees. I take them out. All of them, yeah. Not that I don't like palm trees, I love palm trees. My favorite tree, as a matter of fact. But in universalizing the particular, how do I universalize the palm tree, Lord? Palm trees aren't universal, or commonplace every day. They're exotic, Lord. Edenic. Paradise on earth. I mean, it's bad enough I paint the peaceful and serene that doesn't address the more meaningful questions of life. How will it be if I paint something so self-indulgent and irrelevant to suffering humanity as a view of these harbors today with their million-dollar sailboats and houseboats? And yachts, Lord. So I gotta change them, right? Use them as props for some grander scheme, Lord. Some more universal metaphysical metaphor for man's struggle with you over paradise lost, paradise gained. With the new world, America, the American dream is the metaphor, right? Some intrinsically all-American cliche that still clings to that very essence that at one time gave it validity. You know, like those people and places that are perhaps the most cliched examples of America's enduring hope to find somewhere out there the dream which is truly American, yet universally hoped for. But most often found in those places in the Great Flyover, aftermath of the Great Western Expansion, underneath your plane on the way to somewhere else, those little towns and places just far off enough the interstate to go unnoticed, yet near enough that you know they're out there. Where the green, green grass of home and phrases like the old place have special meaning. And town really is Main Street, and you really would work across that street there in that appliance store, and once more, you'd even like it, because it'd be more than just Main Street. It's Henry Aldrich and Andy Hardy, Archie and Veronica, Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher. It's the heartland, a state of mind, the kind of place that produces the kind of girl you'd marry in a heartbeat. If you were a mechanic, a carpenter, a farmer, an appliance salesman, anything nuts and bolts enough to gain the respect her world would demand of such a privileged honor, yes. The girl of your high school dreams, Peggy Sue or Bobby Jean, the high school prom queen who grew old gracefully and every line and wrinkle could only endear her to you all the more, Lord, yes. Where even her most mundane surroundings would take on a certain magic now, her kitchen, her home, her very world, yes. A world of town softball teams, bowling leagues, and 4-H, where Loretta Lynn, country western, the cowboy are still America's most enduring image of itself. Yes, all these things I used to look down on for all its banality, provincialism, and sometimes just downright intolerance, I now paint, Lord. And because it was the original, the reason for the cliche, the heartland, Middle America's logical extension of the American dream, Yes, Eden in the commonplace, Lord. Yes, even in the banal. Where anyone could come from anywhere and hope to find somewhere out there in that vast continent their own Eden. Whether it was a frontiersman, a pioneer, a cattle rancher, a cowboy, a farmer, a businessman, a carpenter, a mechanic, a salesman, because somewhere out there in that vast continent, from sea to shining sea, those purple mountain majesties above the fruited plains, yes, somewhere in those gleaming alabaster cities, the suburbs, the country, the towns, Main Street America, 13 and Elm, yes, even in those tract homes, Lord, yes, was someone's Eden. To be continued. The Confessions of St. Augustine. Now available on Amazon.com.